The probe drifted through empty space, its solar panels catching distant starlight. It had been traveling for 43 years, carrying messages from Earth in dozens of languages. Pictures of humans, whales, mountains, and cities covered its golden disk. The probe was meant to be a greeting, a hand extended into the darkness. The Velcron Empire found it instead. Commander Thalmor stood on the bridge of his survey ship, watching the primitive device tumble past his viewport. His scaled skin rippled with amusement. The technology was ancient by Imperial standards. Chemical rockets, simple electronics, radio waves. The species that built this was barely aware the universe existed beyond their tiny star. "Scan it completely," Thalmor ordered. "Extract all data and send it to the War Council." His officers worked quickly. Within hours, they knew everything. Earth, humans. A single planet with 8 billion individuals, no faster than light travel, no energy shields, no plasma weapons. They were children playing with fire, sending messages into a galaxy that did not care about their peaceful intentions. The War Council met 3 days later. 50 Imperial commanders gathered in the Great Hall on the homeworld. They reviewed the data from Earth's probe with cold efficiency. This was not the first primitive species they had encountered. It would not be the last. "They have resources," one commander noted. "Water, metals, rare elements. Their planet is rich. Their population is large," another added. "Billions of workers for the labor colonies. They are isolated," a third observed. "No allies. No defense treaties. No one will object if we claim them." The vote was quick. 43 commanders voted to invade. 7 abstained. None voted against. Earth would become another jewel in the Empire's crown, its people scattered across Imperial worlds to serve their new masters. Ambassador Velkoth received his orders and prepared the message. It was standard for all new species. Simple words they could understand. "Submit or die." The Empire had used these exact words 200 times before. 200 species had heard this ultimatum. 197 had surrendered immediately. 3 had fought and been destroyed within weeks. The message transmitted across light years, riding on quantum-entangled particles. It reached Earth's orbital stations within seconds. Defense Minister Hyunwoo was drinking coffee when the alert sounded. His office in Geneva overlooked the lake, morning sun reflecting off calm water. The day had been peaceful until his assistant burst through the door, tablet in hand, face pale. "Sir, we've received a message. It's not from any Earth nation." "It's from space." Hyunwoo set down his cup carefully. "Show me." The message played on the large screen. Ambassador Velkoth appeared, his form vaguely reptilian, his eyes cold and ancient. He spoke in perfect English, though his mouth did not match the words. Translation technology, Hyunwoo realized. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Velkoth of the Velcron Empire. Your probe has entered Imperial space. We have studied your species and found you suitable for integration into our civilization. You will submit to Imperial authority within 30 of your solar days. You will dismantle all weapons. You will prepare your population for relocation. You will provide complete resource surveys of your planet. If you comply, your people will be treated fairly as servants of the Empire. If you resist, your planet will be purified and your species eliminated. This is not negotiation. This is notification. Choose wisely." The message ended. Hyunwoo sat in silence for a long moment, then reached for his phone. Within an hour, the United Defense Council convened an emergency session. Leaders from every nation gathered via secure quantum link. President Minna chaired the meeting from Seoul, her expression grave. "We've all seen the message," she began. "Intelligence confirms it's genuine. The transmission came from outside our solar system. The technology used is beyond anything we possess. We must assume they can do what they threaten." Fleet Admiral Ji-won spoke next. She commanded Earth's entire military space force from her headquarters in Tokyo. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. "I've reviewed our defensive capabilities. We have 200 warships in active service, orbital defense platforms around Earth and Mars, nuclear weapons, conventional forces, cyber warfare capabilities. Against an interstellar empire, I estimate our chances of conventional victory at less than 1%. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone understood what that meant. If the Empire came, Earth would burn. "There must be another option," said Chancellor Bora from Berlin. "Can we negotiate? Offer them something other than submission?" "They called this a notification, not a negotiation," Hyunwoo replied. They've done this before. We're not special to them. We're just another resource to exploit. President Minna looked around the virtual room. Does anyone have any suggestions beyond surrender or suicide? A hand raised. Dr. Tae Yang, director of the Temporal Research Division, spoke from his laboratory in Antarctica. He was young for his position, only 42, but his work had revolutionized quantum physics. I may have something, but I need to explain it in person, to the core leadership only. What I'm about to reveal is classified above top secret. 20 minutes later, President Minna, Defense Minister Hyun Woo, Fleet Admiral Ji Won, and 3 other senior leaders gathered in a secure bunker beneath Geneva. Dr. Tae Yang appeared on screen from Antarctica, his face serious. 15 years ago we discovered something, he began. A way to manipulate quantum causality. Not time travel. Something different. We can change what already happened by forcing reality to collapse into a different probability state. Hyun Woo leaned forward. Explain that in simple terms. Every event exists in multiple possible states until it's observed, Tae Yang continued. Quantum mechanics proves this at small scales. My team found a way to scale it up. We can target a specific decision point in the past and force a different outcome. The invasion fleet, for example. We could make it so they never decided to come here. They would still exist, but their choice would be different. They would have chosen not to attack Earth. President Minna stared at the screen. That's impossible. It was impossible. We made it possible. We've tested it on small scales. We erased a bullet from hitting a target by changing the decision to fire. We prevented a building from being demolished by altering the committee vote that approved it. It works. We call it Project Causality. Admiral Ji-won spoke carefully. If this works, why haven't we used it before? Because it requires enormous energy. Every fusion reactor on Earth running at full capacity for 6 hours. And because there are risks. Changing causality can create paradoxes, fractures in space-time. We estimated we'd only ever use it once against an existential threat. We never imagined we'd actually face that situation. Hyun Woo felt ice in his stomach. What are the risks? 23% chance of imperfect quantum cascade. Could cause localized space-time instability. Might create overlapping timelines. Might fracture reality in unpredictable ways. But the alternative is extinction. The Empire has given us 30 days. I need 25 to prepare the weapon. 5 days for final calibration and firing sequence. President Minna closed her eyes. When she opened them, her decision was made. We need a full council vote. But first I want to know something, Dr. Tae Yang. If we use this weapon and it works, what happens to us? To our memories? Anyone inside quantum-shielded bunkers will remember both timelines. Everyone else will only remember the new reality where the invasion never happened. You'll know we won. The rest of Earth will never know there was a war. The vote happened 6 hours later. All council members heard the briefing. All understood the stakes. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. Earth would not fight a conventional war it could not win. Earth would do something the Empire could not imagine. President Minna composed Earth's response personally. It was brief. We decline your offer. Leave our system or face consequences you cannot comprehend. The message transmitted to Imperial space. Ambassador Velkoth received it and laughed. Grand Admiral Zekrath ordered the invasion fleet to begin their jump to Earth. 5,000 ships powered up their hyperspace drives. In Antarctica, Dr. Tae Yang began the activation sequence for Project Causality. The countdown started. Earth had 30 days until the Empire arrived. 25 days to prepare a weapon that would unmake the invasion before it happened. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity did not play by anyone's rules but their own. Grand Admiral Zekrath stood before the viewport of his flagship, watching ships appear one by one. Each vessel dropped from hyperspace with a flash of blue light, taking position in the massive formation. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, landing craft, 5,000 ships, the largest invasion force assembled in 3 generations. The Dominion's fist was a monster of a ship, 3 kilometers long, armed with enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Zekrath had commanded it for 20 years, conquering 12 worlds in the Emperor's name. This mission would be his easiest yet. Intelligence showed the humans had primitive weapons, no shields, no faster-than-light capability. They would break quickly. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, his tactical officer announced. Hyperspace calculations complete. We can jump to the Sol system at your command. Begin the jump, Zekrath ordered. 6 days to target. Keep the fleet tight. I want every captain ready for immediate combat when we arrive. The fleet entered hyperspace together, 5,000 ships sliding into the dimension between dimensions. The journey would take 6 standard days. Plenty of time to review invasion plans, assign landing zones, calculate occupation logistics. Zekrath settled into his command chair and pulled up the tactical displays. Earth hung in the center, a blue jewel waiting to be plucked. Back on Earth, the countdown continued. 24 days remained. Captain Dong Hyun coordinated the evacuation of Earth's orbital stations. Thousands of civilians lived and worked in space. Scientists, engineers, families who had made the stations their homes. All of them had to move to the surface within 2 weeks. I don't understand why we're evacuating, a station administrator protested over the comm. The Defense Council said we're handling the situation. Dong Hyun chose his words carefully. The truth about Project Causality was classified. Only a few hundred people knew. It's a precaution. If fighting starts, the stations are vulnerable. We need everyone in the protected shelters. For how long? Until the crisis passes. Could be weeks, could be months. Pack essentials only. Move quickly, the exodus began. Shuttles ran continuously, ferrying people and critical equipment to the surface. Dong Hyun watched from his command center on Station Sol's shield, orchestrating the massive logistics operation. He had volunteered to stay behind with a skeleton crew. Someone had to keep the stations operational for what was coming. Deep in Antarctica, beneath 2 miles of ice, Dr. Tae Yang walked through the Project Causality facility. The main chamber was enormous, a sphere carved from solid rock lined with quantum processors and energy conduits. At the center floated the Causality engine, a device that looked like a frozen star, all angles and impossible geometry. His lead physicist, Dr. Dayoon, met him at the control station. Her screen showed 50 dots scattered across the solar system. Each dot represented an observation post, quantum sensors positioned from Mercury's orbit to beyond Neptune. All 50 had to function perfectly or the weapon would fail. Status report, Tae Yang requested. All posts are online and synchronized, Dayoon replied. Quantum entanglement is stable across the network. Energy grid is charging according to schedule. We're ready for testing phase in 72 hours. Any problems? Just one. Post 47 near Jupiter is showing minor fluctuations. Nothing critical yet, but we should send a maintenance crew. Tae Yang nodded. Do it. We can't afford any failures. He moved to the main observation window overlooking the Causality engine. The device hummed with power, barely audible but felt deep in the chest. This machine would save Earth or destroy it. The 23% risk of catastrophic failure kept him awake at night. Colonel Subin commanded the Temporal Defense Array, the network that would target and fire the weapon. She was a career soldier, 38 years old, decorated for service in 3 regional conflicts. This mission was different from anything she had trained for. This was not about fighting. This was about erasing the fight entirely. Her team worked in 12-hour shifts, monitoring the observation posts, running simulations, checking calculations. Every number had to be perfect. They were aiming at a specific moment 2 weeks in the past, trying to change a single decision by the Imperial War Council. Miss by even a fraction of a second and the weapon would fail, or worse, succeed partially, creating a fractured timeline with unpredictable consequences. Colonel, we have movement, one of her analysts called out, long-range sensors detecting multiple hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system. Subin pulled up the display. Her blood went cold. The Empire was early. They weren't supposed to arrive for 6 more days. Get me Admiral Jiwon immediately, she snapped. Admiral Jiwon received the alert in her Tokyo headquarters. She looked at the sensor data and made her decision in seconds. The plan had always anticipated the Empire might arrive before Project Causality was ready. Earth's military would buy time even if it cost everything. Signal all ships, she commanded. Execute Defensive Plan Omega. All vessels proceed to Jupiter's moons. Prepare for ambush. Earth's fleet consisted of 200 warships built over 30 years of slow expansion into the solar system. They were tough ships designed for patrol and defense, armed with railguns and nuclear missiles. Against 5,000 Imperial vessels, they were hopelessly outmatched. But they had surprise on their side. The Velcran fleet emerged from hyperspace at the solar system's edge. Grand Admiral Zekrath immediately ordered a scan of the inner system. His sensors showed Earth's cities, its orbital stations mostly empty. No major fleet presence around the planet. "Where are their warships?" he asked. "Detecting some scattered signatures near Jupiter, Admiral. Looks like merchant vessels, mining operations. Nothing significant," Zekrath smiled. "They're hiding. Hoping we'll overlook them. Pathetic. Signal all ships. We advance to Earth. Standard invasion formation. Maintain scanning protocols." The massive fleet began moving deeper into the solar system, engines burning blue-white. The journey from the edge to Earth would take 18 hours at sublight speed. Plenty of time to crush any resistance. 16 hours into the journey, as the fleet passed Jupiter's orbit, Admiral G1 sprang her trap. 200 human warships powered up from hiding spots behind Jupiter's 4 largest moons. They came in fast, weapons hot, targeting the Empire's forward scouts. "All ships, open fire," G1 commanded. Railgun rounds crossed the distance at relativistic speeds. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked toward Imperial vessels. The element of surprise bought precious seconds. 40 Imperial ships exploded before they could raise shields or return fire. Then the Empire responded. Energy weapons lanced through space. Plasma bolts vaporized human ships in single hits. The Imperial vessels were faster, better armored, more powerful in every way. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, half of Earth's fleet was destroyed or crippled. The survivors fled toward the inner system, trailing atmosphere and debris. But they had bought time. 6 hours of time. Enough for Dr. Tae Yang to complete his final preparations. Grand Admiral Zekrath studied the battle reports with satisfaction. The humans had shown courage but no tactical sophistication. They fought like cornered animals, brave but doomed. His fleet had lost only 40 vessels, a minor inconvenience. The invasion would proceed on schedule. "Resume advance to Earth," he ordered. "Increase speed. I want to arrive in 12 hours. Prepare invasion pods. When we reach orbit, I want shock troops on the ground within minutes." Back in Antarctica, Dr. Tae Yang watched the battle reports with clenched fists. Those were good people dying out there. Friends, colleagues, fellow humans giving their lives to buy him time to make them have never needed to fight at all. The paradox made his head hurt. Energy grid at 87%, Doan reported. All observation posts synchronized. Causality engine responding normally. "We're ahead of schedule." "How long until we can fire?" Tae Yang asked. 6 hours until full charge. Then we need 30 minutes for final targeting calculations. "We can activate in 6.5 hours. Tae Yang looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Imperial fleet. "They'll be in Earth orbit in 12 hours. We'll be ready." President Mina made her final address from the command bunker beneath Seoul. The message broadcast to every shelter worldwide, every bunker where millions of humans waited in darkness. Her face was calm, her voice steady. "My fellow humans, the Empire's fleet approaches. Our brave defenders have fought to give us time. In a few hours, we will activate a weapon that will end this threat. If it works, the invasion will be undone. Reality will change. Most of you will not remember any of this happened, but we will be saved. I cannot explain more. I can only ask you to trust us, to stay in the shelters, to wait. This will be over soon." In the bunkers, people held each other. Children asked questions parents couldn't answer. Soldiers checked weapons they might never need to fire. Everyone waited. Captain Dong Hyun watched from Station Seoul's shield as the Imperial fleet grew larger in the viewports. He could see individual ships now, massive and terrible. His crew was down to 20 volunteers, all of them knowing they might cease to exist in the timeline shift. They had chosen to stay anyway. Someone had to operate the sensors to feed targeting data to the weapon below. "All stations report ready," Dong Hyun announced over the comm. 15 years before the invasion, Dr. Tae Yang was not yet the director of anything. He was a junior researcher at the International Quantum Physics Institute in Geneva, working under the brilliant but difficult Dr. Sung Ho. They spent long nights in the laboratory, running experiments that seemed impossible, chasing theories that made other scientists laugh. The breakthrough came during a routine test of quantum entanglement. They were trying to observe paired particles separated by distance, watching how measuring one instantly affected the other. Standard quantum mechanics, nothing revolutionary, but something went wrong with the timing sensors. The measurement happened a fraction of a second before it should have. "That's impossible," Tae Yang said, checking the data 3 times. "The observation happened before we pressed the button." Sung Ho leaned over the screen, his eyes narrowing. Check the quantum state logs. What did the particles show? They reviewed the data for hours. The particles had existed in superposition, all possible states at once until observed. But the observation point had somehow shifted backward in time by 0.003 seconds. Not much, but in quantum mechanics it was everything. We didn't just observe the past, Sung-Ho said slowly. We changed which past became real. The particle was in superposition. Our delayed measurement chose which state it had always been in. Tae-Yang felt his world shift. If we can do that with particles, then we could do it with anything. Any event that exists in quantum probability. Any decision that hasn't fully collapsed into a single reality. Sung-Ho grabbed a notepad and started scribbling equations. We would need enormous energy to scale it up. But theoretically, we could target a specific decision point and force a different outcome. Not time travel. Causality manipulation. They spent 5 years developing the theory. Most of the scientific community dismissed them. Causality was fixed, they said. The past cannot be changed. But Tae-Yang and Sung-Ho proved otherwise in small tests. They made a computer choose a different random number by observing it differently. They changed the outcome of a coin flip after it landed. Tiny changes, but real. Then Sung-Ho got sick. Cancer, aggressive and cruel. He died before seeing his theory proven on any meaningful scale. Tae-Yang took over the project, driven by grief and determination. He gathered a team of the brightest minds willing to believe the impossible, and he approached the government with a proposal. We can build a defensive weapon that prevents attacks by erasing the decision to attack. No violence, no destruction, just a different choice in the enemy's past. Defense Minister Hyun-woo, younger then but already influential, understood immediately. How long to build it? 10 years. Maybe 12. We need funding, facilities, and absolute secrecy. You'll have everything you need. Build it. The Ethics Council fought them every step. Professor Young-mi, a philosopher specializing in temporal ethics, led the opposition. She came to Antarctica when the facility was half-built, demanding to speak with Tae-Yang directly. Do you understand what you're creating? She asked, standing in the incomplete sphere that would house the causality engine. This isn't just a weapon. You're playing with the nature of reality itself. I'm creating a way to save lives, Tae-Yang replied. To prevent wars without fighting them. By erasing people's choices. By rewriting what already happened. What gives you that right? Young-mi's voice echoed in the empty chamber. Every person in an enemy fleet made choices to be there. They have free will. You're taking that away, forcing them to have chosen differently. That's not defense. That's reality manipulation. And if the choice is between manipulating reality and watching Earth burn, Tae-Yang asked, if an enemy comes with such overwhelming force that fighting back means extinction, what then? Do we die with our principles intact? Better that than becoming the kind of species that treats reality as a toy to rewrite whenever convenient. They argued for hours. Young-mi lost. The government sided with Tae-Yang. Project Causality continued. But Young-mi's words haunted him. She was right about the responsibility. This weapon was different from any ever created. Nuclear bombs destroyed, biological weapons killed. But this weapon unmade. It erased choices from existence, forcing reality down a different path. The technical challenges were enormous. Engineer Jae-hyun, brought in during year 7 of the project, worked on the observation post network. 50 posts scattered through the solar system, each one a quantum sensor capable of identifying causal nexus points in space-time. Think of reality as a river, Jae-hyun explained to his team during training. Events flow from cause to effect. Most of the time, the river is fixed, the water already passed. But at decision points, causal nexus moments, the river briefly splits into multiple channels. Which channel becomes real depends on observation, on consciousness collapsing probability into actuality. So we're choosing which channel was always real? A young technician asked. Exactly. The enemy fleet's decision to attack is a causal nexus. Until that decision fully collapses into fixed reality, it exists in superposition. They attacked and they didn't attack simultaneously. We forced the timeline to collapse into the version where they didn't attack. But they already did attack. We see them coming. In our current timeline, yes. But timelines aren't as fixed as people think. With enough energy, we can shift the observation point backward and force a different collapse. The fleet will still exist. The crews will still be alive. But they will have always chosen to stay home. The energy requirements were staggering. Every fusion reactor on Earth would need to run at maximum output for 6 hours, channeling power into the causality engine. Physicist Dayun spent 3 years designing the power grid, calculating how to move that much energy without melting the planet's infrastructure. "We're talking about 10 to the 23rd joules," she told the Oversight Committee. "More energy than humanity uses in a year, released in 6 hours. The reactors will be spent for months afterward. We'll have rolling blackouts worldwide until they recharge. Can the grid handle it?" Defense Minister Yunwu asked. "Barely. We've reinforced every major power line, built redundant systems, installed emergency fail-safes. It'll work, but only once. We get one shot with this weapon." The other risk was harder to calculate. Temporal paradoxes, quantum instability, the possibility that changing causality on such a large scale would fracture spacetime itself. Dr. Dayun ran simulations for 2 years, trying to predict what might go wrong. "Best case, clean causality shift," she reported. "The timeline changes smoothly. The fleet never arrives. Everyone outside the quantum-shielded bunkers remembers only the new reality. We win with 0 casualties. Worst case?" President Minna asked. "Catastrophic quantum cascade failure. The 2 timelines don't merge cleanly. Reality fractures. We could create overlapping timelines, parallel universes split at the point of intervention, or local spacetime could destabilize, creating regions where time doesn't flow normally. Or the quantum decoherence could spread uncontrollably, affecting not just the targeted decision but cascading backward through related causal chains. In simple terms, we could break reality, not just fail to stop the invasion, but damage the fabric of spacetime itself. The probability is 23%. The room fell silent. 23% chance of breaking reality versus 100% chance of extinction if they did nothing. The choice was terrible but clear. Colonel Subin joined the project in its final year. She was a military officer, practical and direct. When Taeyang explained how the weapon worked, she asked the question no one else had. "What happens to us? The people in the bunkers who remember both timelines? You'll carry both sets of memories," Taeyang explained. "You'll remember the invasion happening and remember it never happening. Both will feel equally real because both are real in different branches of probability. You collapsed into the branch where it didn't happen, but you carry memories from the branch where it did. That sounds like it would drive someone insane. It might. We don't know. We're calling you the witnesses. You'll be the only humans who know what really happened, what we did, what it cost. That knowledge is a burden. I won't lie to you." Subin thought about it for a long moment. "Someone has to carry it. Someone has to remember what we're capable of, so we never do it lightly. I'll volunteer." Others volunteered too. Scientists, soldiers, politicians, ordinary citizens who understood the weight of memory. They would be the witnesses, the keepers of a timeline that would cease to exist. Their sacrifice was invisible, carried in consciousness rather than scars. The weapon took 12 years to build. By year 15, it was complete but untested at full scale. They had proven the theory with small objects, minor events. But changing a decision made by alien minds across interstellar distances, that had never been attempted. They could only hope it would work. Dr. Taeyang stood in the completed causality chamber, looking at the engine floating at its center. It was beautiful in a way. All crystalline structures and impossible angles. Geometry that seemed to hurt the eyes if you looked too long. This machine could save Earth, or shatter reality itself. Professor Youngmi visited one last time before the crisis began. She found Taeyang in his office reviewing calculations for the 1,000th time. Grand Admiral Zekrath reviewed his tactical display with satisfaction. 3 hours until Earth orbit, his fleet moved in perfect formation, 5,000 ships advancing like a metal tide. The human resistance had been pathetic. Their surprise attack destroyed only 40 vessels. Barely a scratch on the Empire's might. Now nothing stood between him and victory. Admiral, receiving transmission from the Imperial capital, his communications officer announced. "Emperor Velkarn wishes to observe the final assault. Route it to my personal display," Zekrath ordered. The Emperor's face appeared ancient and cruel. He had ruled for 60 years, conquering more worlds than any 3 of his predecessors combined. "Grand Admiral, I trust the humans have learned their place?" "They have, Emperor. Orbital bombardment begins in 3 hours. Ground forces will deploy immediately after. Resistance will be crushed within 2 days. The planet will be yours." Good, I want their leaders brought to the capital in chains. Make an example that will echo through the galaxy for generations. The transmission ended. Zekrath smiled. This would be his greatest triumph. After Earth fell, they would promote him to Supreme Commander. Perhaps he would govern the entire sector, ruling hundreds of worlds. His legacy was assured. On Station Sol's shield, Captain Dong Hyun watched the Imperial fleet through his sensors. The ships were massive, covered in weapons, shields glowing with power. His small crew maintained their posts, feeding targeting data to Antarctica, knowing these might be their last hours. Captain, energy readings from Earth are off the scale. His sensor operator reported. Every fusion reactor on the planet is running at maximum. Power consumption just spiked to levels I've never seen. That's them, Dong Hyun said quietly. Project Causality is charging. Everyone record everything. If this works, we might not remember it, but the data will survive. In the Antarctic facility, Dr. Taeyang stood at the main control panel. The causality engine hummed at the center of the chamber, energy crackling around it like a trapped star. Every screen showed green status lights. All 50 observation posts were synchronized. The power grid was at maximum capacity. Dr. Da'un worked beside him, her fingers dancing across her console. Quantum entanglement stable across the network. Causal nexus identified and locked. Target is the Imperial War Council chamber. 2 weeks ago, 1437 local time. That's when they voted to invade. That's the decision we're erasing. What's the confidence level? Taeyang asked. 89%. We have a clear lock on the causal thread. The decision point is well defined. As long as the engine doesn't overload, we should achieve clean erasure. And the 23% risk of cascade failure? Still there. Won't know until we fire. Either it works perfectly or reality fractures. No middle ground. Colonel Subin's voice came through the comm from the Temporal Defense Array control room. All posts reporting ready. Weapon is charged. Waiting for your command, Dr. Taeyang. President Minna's face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from her bunker in Seoul. Behind her, the core leadership of Earth's government watched with tense faces. This moment would define humanity's future, one way or another. Dr. Taeyang, the president said formally, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, you have authorization to activate Project Causality. God be with us. Taeyang placed his hand on the activation switch. He thought of Dr. Shung Ho, dead 5 years now, who had discovered the impossible. He thought of Professor Young Mi's warnings about playing with reality. He thought of the 5,000 Imperial ships about to rain fire on Earth. Activating now, he said, and pressed the switch. The causality engine roared to life. Power flooded in from every fusion reactor on Earth, more energy than humanity had ever channeled into a single device. The quantum observation posts scattered through the solar system began generating the massive decoherence wave, reaching backward through space-time toward the target moment. In the bunkers, the witnesses felt it first. Reality shuddered. The air seemed to vibrate with a frequency beyond sound. Some people screamed. Others sat in silence, tears running down their faces as they felt space-time bend around them. Captain Dong Hyun gripped his console as Station Sol's shield rocked from unseen forces. What's happening to the sensors? I'm getting impossible readings. Space itself is fluctuating. That's the weapon, his sensor operator said, voice shaking. It's reaching into the past. It's changing what already happened. On the Imperial flagship, Grand Admiral Zekrath felt a moment of vertigo. The stars seemed to flicker. His crew stumbled at their stations. What was that? Engineering, report. Unknown, Admiral. All systems functioning normally, but we detected a quantum pulse originating from the third planet. Energy signature unlike anything in our database. It's irrelevant, Zekrath said, though unease crept into his voice. Continue advance, but the unease grew stronger. Why were they here again? What was the strategic value of this particular system? The resources weren't that significant. The humans weren't a threat to the Empire. Why had the War Council voted to mount such a massive invasion for such a minor world? The War Council, the vote. He remembered it clearly, or did he? The memory felt strange, like looking at something through warped glass. They had voted to invade. No, wait. They had voted against invasion. Just enhanced surveillance. That was the decision. That had always been the decision. Reality rippled. In the Imperial capital 2 weeks in the past, the War Council met in their Great Hall. 50 commanders debated Earth's fate. The vote happened. 43 votes to invade. 7 abstentions, none against. But the quantum decoherence wave hit that moment like a hammer. Probability collapsed differently. The vote happened again, differently. The words spoken were different. The thoughts in those alien minds shifted. 30 commanders voted against invasion, 15 voted to abstain. Only 5 voted to invade. The motion failed. Earth would face enhanced monitoring only. No invasion, no fleet. That was the decision. That had always been the decision. Reality cascaded forward from that altered moment. 2 weeks of history rewrote themselves. Grand Admiral Zekrath never received invasion orders. He remained at the Imperial staging world, conducting routine drills. The 5,000 ships never jumped to the Sol system. They stayed home, their crews going about normal duties, unaware they had ever been meant to go anywhere else. On Station Sol's shield, Captain Dong Hyun watched his tactical display with growing confusion. The Imperial fleet was fading. Ships flickered in and out of existence. One moment 5,000 vessels filled his screens. The next moment empty space. The fleet was unmaking itself. "Captain, I don't understand," his sensor operator stammered. "The contacts are disappearing, but the logs say they were never there." "How can both be true?" "Because we're outside the quantum shield," Dong Hyun realized. "We're experiencing both timelines. They're here and they're not here. Both are real." The causality engine's power peaked. Dr. Tae Yang watched the energy readings climb to levels that should have been impossible. The weapon was working. Reality was bending. The past was changing. Then alarms screamed. Dr. Da-un shouted a warning. "Cascade instability. The quantum wave is spreading beyond the target. We're affecting multiple causal chains, not just the invasion decision." "Shut it down," Tai Yang ordered. "Can't. The process is self-sustaining now. It has to complete or it'll tear space-time apart." The causality engine blazed with light. In the bunkers, the witnesses felt reality split and merge, over and over in fractions of a second. 2 timelines fighting to become the only timeline. The invasion that happened. The invasion that never happened. Both true, both false. Both collapsing into a single reality. On the Imperial flagship that was there and wasn't there, Grand Admiral Zekrath experienced both lives simultaneously. In one, he led the greatest invasion fleet in generations toward Earth. In the other, he sat in his quarters at the staging world, writing reports about routine fleet readiness. The memories overlapped, conflicted, merged. He clutched his head as consciousness split. He was 2 people, no one person. He had made the decision to invade. No, the War Council had rejected invasion. Both memories felt completely real because both had been real in different branches of quantum possibility. Then the quantum wave completed its work. Reality chose. The timeline where the invasion never happened became the prime timeline. The timeline where it did happen became a ghost, a probability that collapsed into nothing. Grand Admiral Zekrath blinked. He was in his quarters at the staging world. Why had he been thinking about Earth? That primitive world wasn't worth his attention. The War Council had decided weeks ago to maintain monitoring only. He had reports to write. Nothing unusual about today. Across 5,000 ships, crews went about their duties, unaware they had ever been meant to do anything else. The invasion had been proposed, debated, and rejected. A minor historical footnote. Nothing more. In Antarctica, the alarms fell silent. The causality engine powered down, its work complete. Dr. Tae Yang collapsed into his chair, hands shaking. Dr. Da-un checked her instruments with disbelief. "It worked," she whispered. "Clean erasure. No paradoxes. No space-time fractures." The cascade instability corrected itself. The weapon worked perfectly. The evacuation of the orbital stations reversed itself within 24 hours. Shuttles that had carried people down to Earth now carried them back up. Scientists, engineers, and families returned to their homes in space. Confused about why they had left in the first place, Captain Dong Hyun coordinated the return to Station Sol's shield, processing work orders and personnel assignments. Everything felt normal. The crisis alert from 2 weeks ago had passed without incident. The Empire had made threatening noises, then backed down. Just another diplomatic scare. Nothing unusual. But when he lay in his quarters at night, he sometimes had strange dreams. Dreams of a massive fleet bearing down on Earth. Dreams of battle and fire. Dreams that felt more like memories. He would wake in a cold sweat, the images fading like mist. Just dreams, he told himself. Just stress from the false alarm. Deep in the Antarctic facility, Dr. Tae Yang stood in the causality chamber, looking at the dormant engine. The device sat silent now, power reserves completely drained. It had done its job. The quantum observation posts throughout the solar system were being shut down one by one. The weapon was being placed in mothballs, preserved but not active. Dr. Da-Yun joined him, carrying a data tablet. Final analysis is complete. The quantum cascade was 99.7% clean, only minor fluctuations in local space-time already stabilized. No lasting damage to reality. We did it. We did it, Taeyang repeated. The words felt hollow. They had saved Earth, yes, but at what cost? They had erased events, unmade choices, forced reality itself to bend to human will. That power should frighten everyone. Instead, most people didn't even know it had been used. How many remember? He asked. 5,312 witnesses in the bunkers, about 40 personnel on the orbital stations who stayed outside the quantum shields. They all report experiencing dual timeline memories. We're calling it temporal dissociation syndrome. How are they handling it? Daeun pulled up her reports. It varies. Some are processing it well. Others are struggling. Imagine knowing you fought in a war that the rest of the world says never happened. Imagine carrying memories of events that left no trace in history. That's a special kind of isolation. Dr. Hae-won, the chief psychologist brought in to work with the witnesses, had set up a support facility in Geneva. Every day the witnesses came to talk, to share their impossible memories with others who understood. They formed a community bound by shared experience that no one else could verify. Colonel Subin attended the sessions regularly. She sat in circles with soldiers, scientists, and ordinary citizens who had volunteered to be witnesses. They talked about the fleet they had seen that never arrived. They talked about the fear they had felt when extinction loomed. They talked about the strange pride of knowing they had participated in humanity's most secret victory. Does anyone else have trouble remembering which timeline is real? A young technician asked during one session. Like I know intellectually that the invasion never happened, but my memories of it feel more real than my memories of routine patrol duty that day. Both are real, Dr. Hae-won explained. You experienced both timelines. Your consciousness existed in the branch where the invasion happened, then shifted to the branch where it didn't. Both sets of memories are authentic experiences. Neither is false. You just have more memories than one timeline can account for. Will it ever feel normal? Someone else asked. No, Hae-won said honestly. You'll learn to live with it. But you'll always carry the weight of what happened and what didn't happen. That's the burden you chose. That's what being a witness means. President Minna struggled too. She governed a world that didn't know it had been saved. The Defense Council meetings felt surreal. Other leaders discussed routine matters while she carried memories of ordering a weapon that rewrote reality. She wanted to tell them. She wanted the world to know what had been done, what had been risked, but it was classified. Only the witnesses knew. The rest of Earth lived in blissful ignorance, thinking the Empire had simply decided Earth wasn't worth invading. It was better that way, the Council had decided. The weapon was too dangerous. If the galaxy learned humanity could rewrite causality, they would either attack in fear or demand the technology be shared. 3 months after the erasure, Earth detected a new contact. A single ship entering the solar system, broadcasting a peaceful greeting. Not Velcran. Different species. The ship was elegant, smooth lines and gentle curves rather than the imperial aesthetic of sharp angles and weaponized bulk. Defense Minister Hyun Woo convened the council immediately. Who are they? Fleet Admiral Ji-won reviewed the data. They call themselves the Confederation of Free Worlds. Their message says they represent a coalition of 12 species who govern through cooperation, rather than conquest. They want to establish first contact protocols. Why now? Someone asked. Why make contact today? Maybe they've been watching us for a while, another council member suggested. Maybe they were waiting to see how we handled the Empire's threats. President Minna felt ice in her stomach. Had they detected the weapon? Did they know what Earth had done? Captain Bora, head of Earth's first contact team, met the Confederation ship in neutral space near Mars. The aliens were called the Nalith, bipedal beings with silver skin and large, curious eyes. Their ambassador, named Senth, greeted Bora with a gesture that the translation software interpreted as respectful greeting. We are honored to meet humanity, Senth said. Your species has shown remarkable courage in the face of imperial aggression. Bora chose her words carefully. The Empire made threats. They decided not to follow through. We're grateful the situation resolved peacefully. Senth's large eyes blinked slowly. Yes, peacefully. Very peacefully indeed. There was something in the alien's tone that made Bora nervous. We detected unusual quantum signatures from your system 3 months ago. Signatures that should be impossible with your apparent technology level. I don't know what you mean, Bora replied, keeping her face neutral. Of course. Perhaps we could discuss these matters with your leadership. The Confederation believes in honest communication between potential allies. The meeting was arranged. Senth and 2 other Confederation representatives traveled to Geneva, to the same secure bunker where the Council had authorized Project Causality. President Minna greeted them formally, surrounded by Defense Minister Hyunwoo, Admiral Ji-won, and Dr. Tae Yang. They sat around a conference table, humans on one side, aliens on the other. Senth began the conversation with surprising directness. We know what you did 3 months ago. We detected the quantum decoherence wave. We analyzed the temporal fluctuations. We have encountered causality manipulation in theory. You are the first species we've met who made it practical. The silence stretched. President Minna made a decision. Either they could lie and insult the aliens' intelligence, or they could gamble on honesty. Yes, she said simply. We built a weapon that prevents attacks by altering the causal chain that leads to them. The Empire voted to invade us. We changed the past, so they voted differently instead. The invasion was erased from the timeline. Senth's expression was unreadable. And the crews of those ships? The individuals who made the choice to invade? They still exist, Dr. Taeyang explained. They were not harmed. They simply made a different choice. In the timeline that became Prime, they never left their staging grounds. No one was killed. No one was even aware anything had changed except for our witnesses who were protected from the timeline shift. You rewrote reality to avoid violence, Senth said slowly. That is either the most ethical use of ultimate power or the most terrifying. Perhaps both. Defense Minister Hyunwoo leaned forward. What happens now? Will the Confederation demand we destroy the weapon? Will you attack us preemptively? Neither, Senth replied. The Confederation was founded on the principle that all sapient species have the right to defend themselves. You faced extinction. You found a way to survive without destroying your enemy. That shows wisdom. But it also shows power that could be abused. We know, President Minna said quietly. We understand the responsibility. The weapon is dormant. The energy reserves are depleted. It would take a decade to use it again, and we have no intention of using it unless we face another existential threat. Ambassador Wu Jin, Earth's chief diplomat, joined the conversation. What does the Confederation want from us? Partnership, Senth said. The galaxy has many powers. The Empire is one of the strongest, but there are others equally dangerous. The Confederation protects smaller species through mutual defense treaties and shared technology. We offer you a place among us. In exchange for what? Wu Jin asked. The causality weapon? In exchange for transparency. You share the theoretical basis of your technology. You place the weapon under joint oversight, so no single species controls it. You agree to use it only as a last resort with Confederation approval. In return, we guarantee Earth's sovereignty. We share our technology. We integrate humanity into the galactic community as equals. The Council requested time to deliberate. The Confederation representatives waited patiently in diplomatic quarters, while Earth's leaders debated in private. Can we trust them? Admiral Ji-won asked. Can we afford not to? President Minna countered.